Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. Bipolar wife cheated and is now on her second failed marriage with a child involved. Hello, and welcome to everyone. The fact that this is my first post here makes me feel a bit numb right now, since I'm not sure whether I've been played or not. We had known each other since 2010, but only via shared connections, until she reached out to me on Facebook in 2017. I, a 26-year-old man, met my ex, a 27-year-old woman, in 2017. She informed me that she had a romantic interest in me since high school, that she had just divorced, and that she wanted to know whether I would be interested in going on a date with her. I agreed to her offer, and it looked that we were starting to fall in love. We clicked right away since she had a child from a previous marriage, who was approximately 2 years old at the time, and we both had children. Because her father was absent, according to her, and refused to have anything to do with her. I progressively became more of a father figure to her, and now I am the only person she knows, and I am raising her as if she were my own child. My ex-girlfriend notified me that she was expecting our child 3 months into our relationship, even though she was supposedly on birth control and had her tubes tied. Despite the fact that she had misled me about taking birth control, she and I ultimately decided to keep the child and do our best. Despite the fact that this was a big red flag at the time, I still loved and forgiven her for the lie since I'm such an utter fool. A year after our child was born on July 18, 2018, we were married, in a lavish ceremony funded in part by her parents, and moved into our marital home, which had been generously gifted to us by her parents. We paid rent which went towards the mortgage. Due to the fact that I became aware of how strangely my wife would react to the smallest of things, our marriage started to crumble. There were times when something would set her off, and she'd storm into the bathroom with her phone, forcing me to leave her alone for hours so she could cool down. It was a constant source of frustration for me. When I was looking at her the wrong way, it might sometimes result in this. The idea that anything might set her off was absurd. On one occasion, we got into a heated argument because she had wasted all of our finances and had nothing to show for it, not to mention no explanation for why she had done so. Her hand cut into my palm that night, thanks to the shrapnel from a broken mirror she had smashed during the altercation. It is important to note that I have never threatened or otherwise interfered with her personal life in any way. We were encouraged to take her to the doctor as a result of this experience, and she was diagnosed with bipolar II disorder. Years pass, and she seems to be more stable as a result of her medicine, but she is no longer the same. She's cold and distant, and she never seems to want to go out with us the way we used to. S was fairly consistent, about once a week, and I kept my mouth shut despite many attempts to speak to her about how I thought she was avoiding me, to which she claimed anything was wrong. She willingly resigned her job to be a stay-at-home parent, while I worked full-time and cared for the kids / cleaned the house on my days off. Even when she was aloof, she would say how much she loved me and how happy she was with our relationship. It all comes to a climax around 3 months ago when she begins taking a new SRI and begins depleting our funds, leaving me at home with the kids while she goes on unusually lengthy midnight dog walks and creates disputes only to leave the house for hours at a time. She changes the password on her phone and begins getting up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and text for hours. When I question her about it, she erupts in rage and rushes away. She barred every female Facebook friend I had. I was completely faithful to her and never even looked at another lady. And one night, I came home to an empty house. No wife, no children, and a letter declaring that she is divorcing me because she is unhappy and has been for a long time. She tells me she wants a divorce because her parents are squabbling in front of the kids, which I agree is not appropriate, and she says she wants a divorce because she is unhappy in her marriage. In the midst of their dissatisfaction with the divorce, in her own words, I was the only person she'd ever had that they liked. She's parents decide to pay for her second divorce in 7 years, this time involving another child and another soon-to-be ex-husband. We signed documents. There will be no alimony or child support for my son because I never legally adopted my daughter, despite my best efforts, during which she puts on an Oscar-worthy performance, wailing as soon as I walk in the door and declaring that she needs to vomit up. I finally get her to stop wailing. Meanwhile, I'm trying hard not to cry, but I couldn't keep it together and sobbed the whole way back to the house. My ex-girlfriend called to tell me she was going to work on herself and that she may be able to reconcile with me later. Even though my heart had been broken, I tried to stay optimistic, and I didn't want to lose her, so I chose to reconcile with her. When I pick up our children for the first visitation, I inquire about the week's events with my daughter, who tells me that my ex has already brought a new boyfriend to the house. We literally signed divorce papers 5 days prior. This man would come over and have sleepovers with my ex-wife while I was at work. She told me while we were still married. I was shocked to learn this. I'm unhappy, and I feel as like I've been tricked my whole life, spending 5 years of my life with someone who never really loved me and just wanted someone to support her in her time of need. Despite the fact that my children are already coping with the consequences of the divorce, she has already wrapped them with her protective AP. I'm outraged and heartbroken by what has happened. Edit. I feel I now understand why she acted in such a remorseful manner during the divorce. Although it is none of my business, she made it clear to me that the divorce was not the result of someone else, and that she really wanted me to understand that. Whoever this new man is, he is currently living with her, and although it is none of my business, she made it clear to me that the divorce was not the result of someone else. What of nonsense? For 5 years, I was used and abused by this woman, and every time she went into a fit of hypomania or despair, I was there to pick up the pieces and put her back together. Story 2. 19 years gone in one conversation. My 46-year-old male, white 48-year-old female of 19 years informed me about a blind date that she had been put up on by a friend. She went out with her best friend T for a girls' night out on the town. T is said to have set her up with a guy she had already slept with a few weeks before. T was up with someone else at the time, and he had set up my wife for the experience before that. My wife left the house about 7 p.m. and returned at 3 a.m. the next morning. The revelation came completely unexpectedly, and she expressed regret, expressed a want to work on our marriage, expressed concern about the waterworks, and asked forgiveness. Because T had slept with him, she said that there had been no interaction between her and the gentleman. She was well aware that agreeing to meet with him was a horrible idea, and that traveling to meet with him was much worse than that. When she claims that nothing happened, I believe she is not giving the whole truth. Also, she said that the guy worked at a sawmill, which allows you to make more money, which is why I am the better choice at essentially. She was confessing that she had made a determined effort to take my position. If she had been able to locate someone with a greater salary, the tone of this piece would have been drastically different. A few times after this ladies' night out, and before the revelation, my wife and T had a devastating breakdown of their relationship. T is a liar and a manipulative, jealous person, according to my wife, who claims that they went from being the closest of friends. According to my understanding, the confession, or partial confession, was made in order to keep T from notifying me about her involvement with the guy. By just providing me only a fraction of the story, you are attempting to deceive me about the truth of what happened, only enough to make things look horrific, but not enough to convey the full horror of what transpired. To be really honest, I didn't need to know everything that had happened. Her story didn't make any sense to me. There were just too many holes in the story structure. Several little coincidences occurred during this time period, which brought everything into clear perspective. When she told me of this, I completely lost all affection for her. I went numb and didn't even show any signs of being sad. I've reached the end of my rope. My focus at the moment is on finalizing my exit strategy. Establishing financial stability, securing an apartment, and so on are all important steps to take. We're devastated that she is willing to throw away 19 years of marriage with no regard for anything, even our 2 young children.